Hello, very good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning in again to the Stream School. My name is Leon Hady, and I'm really pleased to have gathered a load of teachers together who are really keen and interested to deliver and continue your education in some way, shape or form through the delivery of live lessons. We've got an action-packed day ahead of us today, and we're going to start the morning with Mr. Action Jackson himself, as we always do, to give a little bit of motivation early first thing. Today's Thursday, and it's our longest day today, and we've got some new lessons, a new lesson actually joining us at the end of the day. We're having our first English as a foreign language lesson for a lot of the students who are tapping in, who are normally used to accessing ESOL resources within their school. So there's going to be, I think, 5 lessons today, if I'm not mistaken, Nish.
Yeah, there's 5 lessons.
Wonderful. And yeah, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Jackson as ever. A very good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing amazing. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Yeah, just looking forward to another sunny day. I think that's the biggest tease of everything. You know, all this has happened when England's just like, you know what, we're actually going to be the Bahamas for a while with our weather. So it's going to be beautiful outside. And then, yeah, here we are.
That's great. That's great stuff. Well, welcome everyone to the Free Streaming School. My name is Action Jackson. I'm your resident motivator here at the Streaming School. I'm the UK Ambassador for Happiness. Very quickly, if you've been watching the Streaming School and you've really been enjoying it, I would really encourage you to take just 2 minutes out of your time to email the team to let them know how great of a job they're doing, because this is a mean feat and they've been able to achieve this and we've been able to make it happen. So make sure you do that. If this is your first time, welcome. My name is Action Jackson. I'm here to motivate you, to give you energy, to put a smile on your face. Go ahead, look, smile. You see, you can't help it. You're smiling right now because the human spirit loves something that makes them smile. So I start with my music and my phrase, I am amazing. I just want you to kind of like bounce with me. I want you to go into your like dance mode. And the move is very simple. It goes like this. I am amazing. Okay, yes. Come on. I am amazing. I don't get tired of this. It's the command of happiness. One more time. Let's go. I am amazing. Straight to the left, straight to the right. I am amazing. Excellent stuff. Well, if you just did that, guess what you did to yourself? You shifted your emotions. There's no way you're going to go into a challenging day without energy. You need energy. And the best way to tap into your energy is movement and good thoughts. As always, I'm going to go with my foundational thoughts. Your thoughts affect your emotions affect your actions. You should know this by now, and your actions will affect your results. Everything is all about your mind, looking after your mind, making sure that nothing gets in there. You almost have to wear that positive helmet, so when negativity comes, it bounces away. Today, I just want to encourage you and empower you that life is filled with so much opportunity. The Free Streaming School is an opportunity for you to upgrade yourself, to upskill yourself so that you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. While you're working towards your exams, you got to think of the bigger picture. What are you actually working towards? I want you to bear that in mind, because we can give you all these tools, all these skills, but then what is it really for? Have the big picture in mind. Very quickly, for those of you who haven't seen this, I've worked with thousands of students, and if there's one thing they're scared of is trying, because they might fail. But here is what I call the circle of resilience. Let's you try something you've never done before, and the probability is you're probably going to fail. Guess what? That's okay. After failure, what should you do? Most people will say try again, but I say nah, learn from your failure, then try again. This is the circle of resilience. And the only way you're going to get through this circle of resilience is to understand that failure is part of success. You need the two. So don't be afraid of failure. Bring it. Now, this amazing basketball player, R.I.P. Kobe, I learned so much from this guy growing up. I'm a big basketball fan. And there's one thing I learned about Kobe Bryant, and that's this. No matter how hard life gets, it's all about you working hard, trying to be the best version of yourself. Life will throw things at you. Use it. Use it to make you stronger. Kobe was always training, always pushing himself. He had one goal in mind, to be the greatest basketball player that ever stepped foot on the NBA court. And he did that. He achieved that. Not only was he a great player, but he was a great dad, a great friend. And many people during his funeral said, this guy was a guy that kept trying, kept trying, kept trying. My question to you is this. How many times do you try before you give up? How many times do you give it your best before you give up? Because most people try once and say, oh, I can't be bothered anymore. But Kobe kept trying. Kobe kept trying. Are you going to keep trying? Because of this guy's legacy, many other basketball players were birthed through him. He learned from Michael Jordan, who was also a trier. So there is a common thread between great people. And I want that thread to run through you as well. Be a trier. Forget about whether or not I'm going to win or lose. Because when you concentrate on the fear of losing or the fear of success, you might not practice. You might not revise. Keep on trying. So watch this. This is how I want you to balance your time, because it might seem like work, work, work. No, you need to balance everything. Have a time when you're working, trying. This hour, this day, this moment is you trying. Number two, make sure you play. To balance your time. You work, you play, and make sure you rest. Work, play, 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 rest. Remember that. Work, play, rest. Work, play, rest. That's the best way to stay healthy on the road to success. Remember, keep on trying, don't give up. You're going to fail sometimes. You're going to be scared sometimes. You're going to be frustrated sometimes. That's okay. Use this time management skill, work, play, rest, to balance your time so you can get the most out of your life. It's been a great pleasure, as always, spending this first moment with you. To go to the day and give it your all. Pay attention, work at your best. And if you want to have more fun, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, Action Jackson Live. Come and say hello. Come and watch some of my crazy clips. But now, thank you so much for watching. Over to you guys at the Tuning School headquarters.
Thank you so much, Action. Really, really appreciate it. It's interesting because you've got some skills and experience with some of the social media items, and obviously you're popular on all of them, Action. But you know, what would you say to parents who are thinking about, you know, during the lockdown, how much they should actually allow their children to access, or how they control what their children access on the lockdown?
Well, it's funny. I just said work, play, rest. When it's work, no social media. Concentrate. When it's time for play, yes, do have that time where they're on TikTok, Instagram. But what I would say, there are some privacy settings that you can actually get involved in to put those privacy settings in place. I would say in a typical long day like this, if you give your children like an hour or two of social media time, but spread throughout the whole day, once they've done their work, we honor them, and it's time to play, let them go and play. So I don't mind them going on social media so long as we balance it, work and play. Work and play. So, and the content, sometimes things like TikTok is really powerful because they're learning dances and recording their own dance. That's creativity, problem solving, team working. All life skills are in some of these social media activities. But be mindful of what they're watching, because that can sometimes be detrimental. But generally, there's some fun stuff on there.
Very much appreciated, buddy. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and yeah, appreciate the uplift in the morning as ever.
Thank you. Take care.
See you again. A very good morning to you, Mr. Orban.
Good morning, Miss Haley. How are you?
I'm really well, buddy. I'm really well. All the better for seeing you this morning. How's the weather treating you down there? Is it teasing you like it's teasing us up here?
Fine. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, another sunny day in London.
Have you noticed the pollution change, Gary? I mean, even when you go on your walks and everything, a lot of people in London saying you can really tell the difference. Are you finding that?
The difference in what, sorry? In the police?
Pollution. Yeah, that would have been brilliant. Are the police being nicer to you now, Gary? Because of all the run-ins you normally have with them.
No, the main thing is no planes in the sky. That's you know, the main thing you notice is nothing in the air.
Yeah. I remember you remember the was it 2008 or something, the volcano, that the volcano erupted and planes were down for a while. I remember it making a massive difference to the skyline and the noise back then. But yeah, it's fascinating to see all those.
We had an extra week in Tenerife as a result. So,
snap! Wouldn't you rather be somewhere like? Imagine if you'd have got locked down somewhere like that during this period. That would have been amazing.
Great.
Yeah. All right, Bronny. Well, thank you so much. The floor is yours as ever, and yeah, really looking forward to your lesson today. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much. Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you all. This is lesson 6, And we are focusing on directing and how to answer those exam questions about directing when they're saying, excuse me, present my screen. Should have that in about 3 seconds time. Start the broadcast here. And I'll just take you to a slide. Firstly, a quote from a very famous director called Peter Hall. So let me, so we're gonna, today's session is called Writing for Exam Success Directing. When those exam questions, whether you're EduCAS, EdExcel, AQA, whatever your exam board is, how do you write those questions about directing? Okay, let's look at this quite inspirational quote, I think, from Peter Hall, a very famous theatre director. He says, "You don't tell people how to act. You actually provoke them to act and then edit, criticize, and help them select what they acted. So you're not looking to do everything for the actor to say, and then you stand there and then you say it in this voice. He says, provoking them to act. So you discuss with them and you help them get under the skin of the character so that they feel they're ready to rehearse the part. And then as they try it, you help to select the best bits, change the bits that aren't working. And then it's still something that they have to creative ownership of, but you as a director, your job there is to support. So please don't fall into the trap in directing of saying, and then you do this, and then you do this. Although, of course, we're talking about writing about directing, not just them not being a director as such. Let's look at exam questions. So yesterday we talked briefly about the top example here, which is really the question you want in the exam. As a director, what would you want to communicate to the audience within this extract? Very broad and open question. Allows you to answer it really in any way that you like to. A couple of others, just so you're not thrown when you get to an exam. Let's look at the second one. As a director, how would you use your cast to communicate your creative vision to an audience within this extract? So firstly then, what is your creative vision, of course? And then how do you use your cast actors to show that? So we talked yesterday about the balance where, as in directing questions, you are talking about acting primarily. You can talk about how it interacts with other creative things that you've got oversight of, like the set, the props, the light, sound. But really, it's about how you use your actors, and that little tweak is how you use a group of actors rather than just one actor in particular. More on that later. And then finally, as a director, how do you use proxemics to communicate character relationships within this extract? So they'd like to sort of show you an example answer that I've written, and then if we have time, come up with an answer that I write live in the session as well. A little reminder that we said yesterday there, some of the tools that you can use, so things you might talk about as a director: pace, stillness, gaze, proxemics, use of a prop, slow motion, synchronized movement, or on that in yesterday's session if you like to work on that. And then a couple of hints to get your head around these sorts of questions. You might mention sound like the focuses in your actors, and then as a director, so that you don't end up writing an acting question, as a director, focus on the instructions you're giving to a group of actors. It sort of helps you to have your director's voice more than an actor's voice. So what do PEE paragraphs look like for directing? So similar to acting, with slight nuance. So point, what you want to communicate as a director, referring to a particular line or moment. I think this is how far we got yesterday, and I showed you perhaps this example. As a director, I would wish to show X, Y, Z on the line, whichever. Okay, so that's it. The point starts very similar to, starts in the same way we use an acting paragraph. Elements. Again, how to do this? So instead of describing what you would do as an actor, you're describing the instructions you would give to your actors. So I would ask my actors to move in this way, speak in this way, interact with you in this way. Okay, that's your evidence. And then in your explain, you justify why making this point is important for the production. So if you need to communicate actors' isolation, and you say that in your point, and you give some evidence about how proxemics is being used to show their isolation, then in the explanation bit where you're explaining, you're going to start by justifying why this point is important. It's important to show this character as isolated because, okay? And then you analyze the impact it would have on the audience when you use the evidence above. So for an audience, by staging it in this way, having this character on its own at one corner of the stage would show the audience this character's isolation, which is important for them to see what a big change it is when you have friends at the end of the play, or whatever the plot of the play is. So that there is your PEE for directing, and I hope that when you go into an exam, like I hope you've done for the acting questions, you take a note of this and you're able to just go, okay, this is my structure, and when I write a whole essay, it might be a 20 marker. All I'm doing this is sort of repeating this 3 times, for example. So point, evidence, explain, and that's what that looks like for directing. Okay, so this is my worked example that I've done already. This is the piece of script I showed yesterday. So more about, a bit more detail on that if you watched yesterday's session. Just to remind you quickly, it talks about what they did to this poor character Adam, who they were bullying, and then it went a bit wrong, and he fell in through this grill, fell down this hole, and he died. They think he's dead. John Tate says, dead, he's dead. And then Phil, when they're all lost, no one has any idea, he's going to start making the plan. This is Kathy, Danny, Mark, you go to Owen's house. So he starts, technically they're telling him what they need to do to make it better. So this exam question, as a director, what would you want to communicate to the audience within this extract? Okay, I've shown you my how you write a point, and I've given an example there for that question. So as a director, I wish to show, and then I've focused there on what it is I'm trying to communicate to an audience. I would wish to show the change from teenagers having fun to a moment of dread on John Tate's line, dead. So I've really had to think about that word we took through yesterday, interpretation. What do I want to show? What's the most important thing in this bit? And for me, I've chosen the most important thing to be that line in the middle here, where he says dead. For me, that's really important, and that really is the focus of the whole thing there. Everything that comes before it is great, after it is great, but really I want the audience to remember that middle bit, if nothing else. So dead, he's dead, is the focus of what I'm doing here. And my point there is, I want to show the change from teenagers having fun to a moment of dread on John Tate's line, dead. Okay, let's move to my evidence now. So that big paragraph there. There would be a lot of movement on stage from the actors as story of Adam's attack is being told. There will be some laughter as they remember the story of how they treated Adam on the grill. Just to rewind to the script, you see that first half of it really is all them saying, this happened, we were throwing stones, it was really funny, and then, we're having a great time. But then, I've just told you in that paragraph what that looks like really. A lot of movement and some quiet laughter. Then halfway through that paragraph it says, however, when the actor playing John Tate said dead, the actors in the group would all be still and would look to the ground, hands in pockets, suddenly ashamed of their actions and aware of the scale of what has happened. And what I hope you see there is, it's not rocket science what I've written at all. I've just been really concise in my evidence and linked it very closely to the point I made above and described 2 moments really. One where it was laughter and lightheartedness and a bit of movement to reflect that, and one where suddenly things have got very serious. So that's the next bit of your PEE paragraph, the evidence. And then your job is to explain it, a reminder of what we do when we explain, we justify why making this point is important, we analyse the impact it would have on the audience when they see this evidence. So the explain, bottom 2 bullet points here. Showing this change of mood, so from the lightheartedness to the seriousness, showing this change of mood will be important for the audience to realise that these teenagers are likeable, but have committed a horrendous act. So it should show the audience that they're not terrible people, but they've done something really serious. And the second bullet point, the last one on the page, using stillness to show this change would be particularly effective. A change from movement on stage to stillness clearly signifies for an audience a change in mood, allowing them to empathise with these characters and for the seriousness of their situation. So I hope you'll see that as a clear explanation. I'm sort of saying why my bit of evidence that I've chosen is going to be impactful for the audience. It's this second bit down here in particular. A change from movement on stage to stillness clearly signifies. So whatever you're doing, whatever creative decision you make as a director, you should be able to say why you're doing it. It would do this for the audience. And that's what I've tried to do there. Okay, so if we have a look at one more question here, and we work through it together. So as a director, how would you use proxemics to communicate character relationships within this extract? Have a think about that. and work out what you would want to say. Proxemics, the relationships, the sort of physical relationships on stage between the characters, how much distance is there between characters, and then what meaning does that communicate to an audience? Okay, so I'm going to go on to notes here. I've written that up onto here. So as a director, how do you use proxemics to communicate relationships within this extract? Okay, so I'm going to start by writing my point. So I really want to show that the group are together at the beginning. You know, when they're telling the story, I want to say that they're all one, they're all together. So I might write, as a director, I'm not getting into my evidence yet, remember. I want to use proxemics to show that the group are initially together and then are isolated when reminded of how serious the event is. So that's my point there, to say, not without getting into specifics, I want to use proxemics. What do I want it to show? Well, that they're initially together, unified as one, and then they become very, very isolated there. So my evidence there, and I'll just write this sort of more in bullet points, this evidence. So I want to say that initially, within this extract, they're within each other's social space. And we all know a lot about social distancing and things at the moment, don't we? So then initially within each other's social space, so 1 to 2 meters, and this shows their unity, showing their unity, showing that they are all one. They're a group, they're a gang, and then I'd put maybe perhaps except Leah and Phil, who you'll see are slightly more on the outside of the group there. Okay, then I'll say, it's not a very complex point in itself. I'll then talk about how they scatter from John Tate's line dead. So if we John Tate, try that again. John Tate. And I'll just put John T's line. John T's line dead. So he says dead, and I want them all to scatter. So I want them all to move to different parts of the stage a bit, not in a very silly, sort of obvious way, but just a couple of steps to show that they're reminded of the fear that they're experiencing, and then by having that fear, they're no longer unified. So they're no longer unified. They're a bit more within the public space. They're further away from each other, take a couple of steps apart, and it shows them to be more vulnerable, doesn't it? I think. And then finally, in terms of my evidence, Phil takes over during this extract, doesn't he? And I want, while Phil's taking over, I want this idea that they're a group to come back a bit more strongly. So I want them to take tentative steps towards one another. And again, you have to do this in quite a believable way. So maybe they're not just taking steps inwards, but they all take a step or two closer to Phil, and that means that they end up closer together as a group. And it shows that they're a group again, that they're willing to be led. Actually, they're quite easy. They want to be manipulated, they want to be led. And that's shown physically through proxemics, through the way they get really close together there. Okay, and then once I explain bits, I've made that point. Proxemics is going to show they're together and then they become quite isolated because of what they've done. My evidence there, I think, is clear. I've picked out 3 little group all act because everyone else is doing it. That's when bad things happen, isn't it? When no one is brave enough to go, I'm making my own decision here. So I'll talk about how the group are in this situation because of their herd mentality, i.e. will follow because everyone else is doing it. They all start, one side throwing stones, so they're all doing it. They all have to do it. And then because they have this herd mentality, this makes them vulnerable, doesn't it, to being led. So if someone says, I'll take over, I'll tell you what to do, they'll all accept, no matter how bad it is. And you might have seen from another lesson that then he ends up recommending that they go and kill Brian as well. So it makes them vulnerable to being led. And then in our explanation, we need to make some reference to the audience as well. So we might say, using the physical closeness initially shows their unity. And then when we change that, it shows to an audience these characters, try that again, these characters, apostrophe youth and vulnerability, let's say, they're all teenagers. And then we'll put how important for the audience to see the group as a collective, rather than making bad choices because of one person's mistake, because of one person. It's not that there's one bad egg in the group and that's the problem. It's because none of them did anything to stop these bad things happening. Okay, so I suppose what we're saying there is we can all be led to bad choices if we follow the herd, follow the sheep, follow others. So there's my sort of PE structure there for that question about proxemics to communicate relationships. Again, what I'm saying is fairly basic. They're all going to be together. They're going to separate a little bit. They're going to come back together again. But often, as a director, the decisions you're making are not rocket science. You're not asking anyone to perform brain surgery on stage. You're saying, stand here, stand over there, come back, or say the line in this way, or try and show this through body language. But they can often be you can do very simple things to communicate quite complex things. And that's what you need to do really as a writer, someone writing about drama and theatre from the point of view of a director, is take these decisions in a way that really helps to communicate a message that works for this production. Okay, just open up this again. So we are, we've talked through our exam question there. Now there's a couple of links that I've put up here. One again is the same link to the production of DNA by a theatre company and crew. I think it's okay. It certainly allows you to see the play. I really recommend that you read it. I've put up a previous link to the whole play, a PDF of the whole play that you can see. But if you do want to see the play acted out or sections of it, then that's good to do. And of course, section 8 is on there. You can see how they did it. It's only their interpretation. You will have your own one, but there it is. And then there's a clip of the director whom I quoted at the beginning, Peter Hall, who's saying that you don't tell actors what to do, you help to bring it out there. And it's him talking a bit more about that and about directing. I took the quote I shared with you, I took it from this video. So follow that link if you want to learn a little bit more about directing there as well. And then as a task, if you'd like to do a bit of independent work on this, you could do your own answer to the bottom paragraph, sorry, the bottom bullet point there. As a director, how would you use proxemics to communicate character relationships within this extract? We've worked through an answer today that will hopefully help you, but again, it's for you to interpret and make your own decisions. Or if you want to do one cold, if you want to do one without my support or without having discussed it, as a director, how would you use your cast to communicate your creative vision to an audience within this extract? What do you want to communicate? And how do you intend to do it? So we will talk next week. Turn my camera back on. We'll talk next week about designing and about, there are three sorts of types of questions you really get about script in an exam, from the point of view as an actor, of a director, and as a designer of some kind. So we'll begin to introduce design aspects next week. Haven't decided where we'll start yet. We might look at sound or lights or question or props. But I'll work it out by next week, and then we'll start our journey into thinking about writing about design and being a theatre designer, which, even if that isn't your bag, even if you always want to do the acting in a written exam, and all exam boards for drama now have a written exam, you will have to be able to write competently as a designer. So that's my aim. Okay. That's the lesson for today. I hope that was helpful. Mr. Hady, it's back over to you.
You are a gentleman, Mr. Robin. Thank you so much for that, buddy. Really, really appreciate it. Really, really useful. It's funny because I remember in yesterday's lesson you said that a lot of people don't say, the young people that you work with, they want to be actors before they're directors, and it just really kind of makes you appreciate the skill a little bit more. And obviously today you really elaborated on guiding it. Which do you prefer, Gary?
Oh, wow, what a question. I suppose as a drama teacher, you don't really do much acting. I don't really go for teacher enrolled stuff. My students will say, normally it's them doing it. But you do a lot of directing. You do a lot of helping students to realize that creative vision. What I'm probably too guilty of is saying, you stand there, you go there, you over there. And actually what we saw from Peter Hall in that quote there is, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be talking to actors and treating them as people who are creative, and allowing them to make their own decisions and then guiding them through it. I know, Loa, you are a film director with a great deal of experience. What would you comment on that? What's the balance of telling people what to do and where to stand and how to say it versus bringing that out of them?
I think for me, because with a lot of the stuff that we shot that made it to television, it was all I'd written it. I'd always written what had come, so I knew exactly what I wanted to see. So that became a little bit obsessive. We didn't have the jump where I was directing and writing, and then there was kind of like, well, let's make sure we align here. I kind of had both things in my mind. I was like, I want to see it exactly that way. And you were always then cast, because then I'd do the casting, and when we were involved in the casting, when you casted that, you knew that they were going to do everything you wanted in the way you do it, because you wrote it with a stereotype in mind. So I think the writing informed it more than the directing, and the directing was really just about letting people run with it.
Okay.
But I was never as handsome as you. I was never as handsome as you, buddy. So I couldn't get in front of the screen. So I don't have the actor's experience.
Oh yeah, right. And did you write with particular people in mind? Did you ever write with particular actors in mind? I'm going to cast you, so it makes it easier for me to write it because I can just do it with you in mind. Yeah,
utterly. So because it takes away the search. I mean, I think it was Quentin Tarantino famously said he would never have made Inglourious Bastards had he not found Christopher Waltz. You know, he burnt through all the studio's search money before he found Christopher Waltz. And then he had to go and put all his own money into then finding Christopher Waltz from his own searches, his own talent research escapades. Yeah, so it's completely different. But I think one of the main things with the creative process is it's really fun to see people also bring it to you in a very different way. And you go, oh, right, well, I didn't see that there. And then, but again, the actors would know much more about that than us. Do you miss acting? You know, because obviously you got a first back in university for being brilliant in all things drama. So
years ago. No, not enormously. There's enough drama in my life. No, it's I'm fine. I still get to do silly accents and things with my children, or occasionally try and entertain my classes, and they raise their eyebrows and say, "No, thank you, sir." But never mind.
Wonderful.
It's
wonderful.
It's good fun. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gary. Have a great day, buddy. And
it's a pleasure, you too.
And also that's the last we'll see of you this week, isn't it?
Thanks. Bye.
God bless, buddy.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Nish. Yeah, it's so much fun, Mr. Orban. It's always so much fun. It's really interesting as well when you think of all the teachers, you know, and the people that you tapped into to look at doing this, and how many teachers you think, oh, I wish every child in the country had that person as a teacher, had her as a teacher, or went to his lesson, or you know, got the way she delivers that. Yeah, you know, it's yeah. Sorry, there's. I'm really glad that you engaged in that conversation with me, Nish. Very, very kind of you. I'll go back to my hole now. It's all yours, my dear. Thank you.
Okay, so here is the optional task for drama today. Gary did mention it. It is write your answer for one of these directing questions. So the first one that you could write an answer to is, as a director, how would you use your cast to communicate your creative vision to an audience within this extract? And the second question is, as a director, how would you use proxemics to communicate character relationships within this extract? So if you've missed out on anything, any of the previous drama lessons, you can find them on Facebook and on YouTube with all the links to any resources, and the tasks will be on there as well. Up next, I believe we have PE.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nish. I look forward to seeing you in 15 minutes.